Hello to our YouTube viewers and thank you for your time. In this episode, we will talk about employee journey at PromptCloud, share our voices, and discuss the future of remote working culture across the globe. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce our guest, Arpan Jha. She's an entrepreneur with EQ and brings in her share of voice with vigor, resilience, and thought leadership. But I know her as a charming person who's just amazing at her job. Arpan quit working for the big four consultancies about a decade ago to join the startup world, and never has she looked back. It is such a brilliant leap of faith to leave the comfort and what's known to dive into the unknown. In her tenure, Arpan launched Jobs Picker to get talent insights, which is a niche product, and another product is just about to launch, um, and we are super excited for that. So I'm Shruti, your host and content manager at PC 2.0. Here in this session, I have a couple of questions to ask Arpan, mostly regarding her journey, her career, and experience so far. So, welcome to the session, Arpan. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Shruti. I'm good. What about you?
I'm doing good so far. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get started. My first question for you: tell us about your journey before you joined PromptCloud.
Okay. I grew up watching rocket launches. So engineering was kind of given to me, no questions asked. I did my engineering, worked at one of the big fours after that from campus. And then I went on to do my master's in software engineering from Carnegie Mellon because that's what I really wanted to do at that point. And again, because of my prior experience, I got picked up at another big four from the CMU campus.
Yes.
I think that was my prior experience as a management consultant. And while I was working with one of those big fours, I realized that this wasn't really my calling. And this was back in 2011, and the kind of opportunities India had at that time really excited me, and I wanted to explore the startup world that was brewing in India. And that's when I decided to come back and did a small stint at another big four. So that's how I ended up being at three of the big fours.
All right.
And you see how the experience or the brand plays out.
All right. So you were living in the US. Why not, why didn't you think of joining a startup in the Silicon Valley itself? You were already placed in the US.
Yeah, that's a good question. I also had other reasons to be back in India. I really wanted to be closer to my family, and India is a growing economy. I mean, if you look at the way things are right now in India, despite recession outside India, I mean, it's really an exciting phase. So that kind of had started happening in that during that 2011 period.
Yes.
And that's why I thought, what better than being at home and being able to try out newer things.
True. So having worked at the Big Fours, what are your learnings that you've taken? Of course, it is quite different to working in a startup world, like you just mentioned, but you must have had your share of learnings over the course of time.
Right, of course I did. So I definitely got this experience of working in a multinational where everything is set, so many processes, policies, and such less scope for error. That was my introduction to how a big corp is run. And especially with the variety of projects you can be on, you definitely get this multifaceted know-how of different domains, different customers that you get to interact with. And also, this was pretty early in my career. So, I mean, I was almost a fresher at each of these three big fours that I
Right.
worked at.
Hmm.
So, I didn't spend enough time, I would say, to have my share of learnings, even though I did get a lot of exposure. In fact, at one of the big fours, I did a lot of thought leadership work, and in a very short time, I did publish a lot of white papers. So, I mean, the exposure was great, and big fours had its place. And what it helped me though understand was, I mean, it helped me navigate what I should and should not be doing. I think that was a big contribution of being at those places.
Right. Amazing. So moving on, like we had a recent meetup in Goa in July. I just wanted to know what are your takeaways from our recent meeting? How was your experience? Because I met you for the first time, and you've met most of our employees for the first time, excluding few who has been with PC for a long time. So, what was your experience about the meetup?
So my first reaction was, wow, we are so many of us now.
True,
Also,
true. I agree.
I think we have grown so quickly in the last 2 years. So, I mean, seeing so many people at one place was like really overwhelming. And I think you'll agree that we thought we already knew each other from before, even though we most of us were meeting face to face for the first time. One factor could be because we have our videos on, and that has played a role in keeping that connection. Also, for me, it was really overwhelming because the session where we wrote thank you notes to each other, it was so touching, to catch up with people and acknowledge their work, especially the ones that you work with day in and day out, but don't get a chance to meet personally.
Yes. Hmm.
So I think overall we really lived up to that theme of connection and bonding. And being a remote company, it's so important for us to not lose sight of that,
True.
to make space for meaningful connections. And I think we have been super conscious as a company, to make sure that we keep doing that more intentionally,
Hmm.
because we don't get to see each other every day.
Hmm.
So I think at the meetup, there was no unnecessary barriers. Everyone had fun. And I thought it also gave us that renewed energy to think about our work, why we do
Most
what we do,
definitely.
how we can be better,
Yes.
which probably wouldn't have been possible if we saw each other every day, I guess.
That is so true. Sometimes meeting rarely is for the best. Then we really look forward to connecting with each other and then spending that quality time with each other, and then it only works in our favor. I also agree.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, well, it's been 10 years for you with PC, and you have successfully launched a niche vertical for talent intelligence called Job Picker, and another product for the e commerce space, which is at the verge of its release. So, tell us about your experience as a tech entrepreneur.
Okay, so I personally think as an entrepreneur, nothing else that you have done before venturing on this journey matters. I mean, no experience, no expertise. Each day you're going through that process of unlearning and learning, and you solve one problem, and then there are a new set of problems to solve. So earlier in this journey, I would tend to think that once you solve this hiring challenge or you've reached X revenue, you're set. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you had started for. But I think you get over this naivety, you keep building awareness, you keep getting inspired, and I think that's what keeps you going.
Hmm. Hmm.
So with Jobs Picker and this new product that we are about to launch, I think the idea is to move from a pure horizontal solution to solving very domain specific challenges and
Hmm.
providing insights and data for end use cases. So basically solving end to end rather than just one small piece.
Hmm.
And because of that, I think we are one step closer to enabling business success for our customers, which is the mission PromptCloud is on.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it's mostly about unlearning, learning, taking those learnings into what else you could do, how else can you solve problems
Right.
for your customers.
Right. Right. So, as an entrepreneur, I understand that you're wearing multiple hats. See, you have one hand in marketing, another hand in sales, then HR, then product. So, how does your typical working day look like?
That's an interesting question. So I usually tend to plan my week. I don't, okay, while I do plan my days later, but that's how I look at my work.
Hmm.
And I do that to make sure that all my KRAs are in check. So like you said, I have to, I'm involved in marketing, sales, a bit of products now because it's Vivek mostly looking at that,
Yes.
as well as HR. So I would say my work involves a lot of critical thinking,
Hmm.
problem solving, strategizing. And in fact, I do get a lot of ideas when I'm not at my desk or doing something else.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I wouldn't say that, I mean, this is what I do 9 to 5. And because I'm involved with sales strategy and marketing strategy, also donning the CHRO thing, there are a lot of cultural elements and next frontiers to think about. So it's a lot of thinking, I would say. And then I spend a lot of time writing them in terms of roadmaps, charters, culture books, and stuff like that. I also spend a lot of time with my direct reports. I have one-on-ones weekly, review their plans, mentor them when they need me. So yeah, I think it's a mix of all of these.
Wow, it's just amazing to know that a person can like accomplish so much just while just with little planning, right? So it's just amazing for
Yes,
you to see you in
planning
action.
is key.
Yes, it's just amazing for me to see you in action. It's really inspires me. Um, so I understand that you have accomplished so much in your life already. So how do you see yourself growing from here? What next? Like you have so much already accomplished.
Okay, I wouldn't take that fully. I think accomplishments are more extrinsic. But yeah, this might sound a little philosophical, but I'm at a stage in my life, and I believe everyone gets there eventually, where I'm looking for my true purpose. So, and a lot of credit for this goes to the way we work, being more people centric and with a vision for our people to lead holistic, fulfilling lives. This question has really gotten to me, that what is my purpose? And I think that's where I'm heading next, and I hope to have some awareness on that soon. Really hope so. And I'm really trying to figure out how we as a community can become more intrinsically motivated, I mean, over the extrinsic ones like money or rewards or fame, because I think intrinsic is what serves us in the long term. It makes our lives more meaningful. And I definitely want to become more aware and gain more wisdom along the way. So I think that's where I'm heading next.
Hmm. I think that vision kind of reflects in your LinkedIn as well. When I was going through your page, the first line that caught my attention was, and then I've used it in my introduction as well, that you're an entrepreneur with an EQ. So I think what you want to achieve and then what you're currently doing is in sync. So it's amazing, right?
Let's hope.
Uh, So I also know that you practice yoga every day and then you're an amazing singer. So tell us about your routine and then does this really help you in uh, enabling your vision?
Hmm. So unfortunately, singing is no more part of my daily routine, how much ever I would have liked it to be. But yeah, yoga for sure. I mean, I haven't looked back on it ever since I started almost 15 years ago. So yeah, I have a daily practice. In fact, I'm always inspired by this yogi called Adrian Mishler. I don't know if you've come across her. And then I'm a full-time mother. I have a 4-year-old, so I'm beating myself up all the time when things don't go as planned with my daughter's routine. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of other things to do apart from just what I would have liked to do. And then I love doing my home. I watch plays. I read sometimes. I travel a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I am the kind of a person who goes from checklists to checklists. So, I think I am trying to change that. And that's why I'm reading this book called 4,000 Weeks right now, which
Oh,
is kind of
okay.
interesting in defying that whole notion of, having your life move from checklist to checklists.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So one word that defines Prompt Cloud, according to you.
Inspiring. I think
Hmm.
that's the one word I would definitely use, at least the way we have shaped ourselves over the last 2 years, post the pandemic. And even though we are a non-profit or we are not a social enterprise, the way we work and the kind of orientation we have is very human oriented. And I think that is what uh, is important uh, for a business to sustain and grow. Unless you help your people bring their best to what they do, it's not impossible. I mean, growth doesn't happen organically.
Hmm.
So I think inspiring is the word I would use for PromptCloud.
Amazing. So, with this question, we are almost towards the end of this session. Before I let you go, do you want to share something to our future employees?
Oh, yes. In fact, we have our EVP, and that is something I would definitely like to share or talk about. So we have three elements to our employer value prop, which is learning and growth, great colleagues, and great culture. And these are the things which have come from our people who have worked, who have left. So it's not something that we have created ourselves. So if you align with an environment that provides these learning and growth, great colleagues, and great culture, we would love to have you on board. We are also serious about work life blend. So you will find that it's very different here. We have people stepping out to pick their kids, doing house errands, working at their own pace and time. And
Right.
this kind of flexibility will feel awry at the start, but I think this is what sets you up for finding your own way and maybe even your own purpose.
Right.
So we have long pivoted from a business for whom people work to a company that works for its people and
Hmm.
its customers, of course.
Hmm.
So, yeah, if you share these values, I think you're going to find it liberating here. That's what I would say to our prospective employees.
Perfect. So I think that's all from my end. I really thank you so much for making out time for this interview, and that's all. Have an amazing day. We will like soon catch up with you again. And if you want to say anything to our YouTube audience, uh, one liner message or something.
I think I've already spoken a lot more than you asked me, Shruti.
All
So
right.
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for doing this. And I really hope everyone watches this and is able to have some takeaways.
Yes,
Thank
I
you so
hope so
much.
too. Thank you. You have a
Yeah,
good day. Bye bye.
you too. Bye.
I will end the recording.